all, these both characters are very dominant. If you really compare that to um, their predecessors, especially um, Helmut Kohl, as well as Helmut Schmidt. Helmut Kohl is the person who brought Angela Merkel, and Helmut Schmidt is a legend here in Germany whose character is phenomenal. His name is even put on the Hamburg airport. That is the main reason why it is called Helmut Schmidt Airport, Flughafen. Um, Angela Merkel has a character of a gentleman, a character of he has an American style of appearance. Always talking fine, always be polite, but still dress nice. I mean, look at the picture even you brought. It's a very charismatic person who was also patriotic, nationalistic to his country. But because of his movement worldwide, he has somehow like he became a very integrative person in the sense that um, his policies that he brought was also for the integration of foreigners here in um, Germany. But one thing that hit him well and where he had to find serious solutions to that was the immobilian crisis um, that brought a whole lot of challenges to him and his government. It is through him who Hartz-IV came in. That is another social integrative measures to um, fight against the job unemployment, etc. in the country. He faces a whole lot of challenges. Also, it is within his power or governance where um, how was his name? Mr. Sharping. Mr. Sharping, a German political tycoon who came from, I think, Saarland in the area. And it became a whole lot of heavy news because he was far left. And at that time, because of the immobilian crisis and the resulted job unemployment throughout Germany's industries, it became a very, very difficult for him. But nevertheless, he managed it gradually by introducing this Hartz-IV thing and then bringing their various companies in a position where they were able to maintain um, like their company structures, but reduce um, the working conditions that the people had. You know, before it was like when you get into an employment, you need to be employed long term. Yeah, they were not allowed so simply to just give you like 1 year, and after one year you need to renew your contract again, and then before 2 years is where you'll be the company is ordered to give you a permanent contract, etc. So also it is this era where these things open up and the companies became more diverse, more vibrant in one way. On another way also, it was not quite helpful for many Germans and many citizens living here because of the already mentioned structures. Gerhard Schroeder is a person who is had a character of negotiation. I mean, wherever he goes, even when the things that he was saying was not properly right or not to almost to the interest of the nationalist, it still looked nice. Whereby, if you check the character of Angela Merkel is a very calm person, a person who was not, let me put this way, a racist at all, but because of but who was also nationalistic and patriotic. She came from the East, East Germany, where she had very, I mean, she's a physician, but at the same time, without with no children, yeah. But nevertheless, she was very, very concerned about the development of the country. So she managed it properly well when Angela Merkel was, when Gerhard Schroeder was no more there. And so from there on, I mean, she has made herself to become, after Helmut Kohl, one of also of the personalities that really led Germany to its strength. So they both have different character in approaches, but they are very what do you call it, glorified here in Germany. And I think if let me land it here for the meantime, so when further questions come in, we'll be able to discuss it further. So this is how I would say about both characters.
It's all right. I said I'm not very familiar with Gerhard Schroeder because he spent a very little time in governance in Germany. However, Angela Merkel was a darling to a lot of people, especially to African students, because she provided them with an opportunity to come to Germany and study, and quite a number of them got wonderful scholarships and incentives that enable them to, see themselves through school in Germany. So I think that's one of the reasons why she's really loved. Then she equally gave the German people a platform to be open to express themselves. She went ahead to close down nuclear powered plants, and because she wanted to, she felt there was no need to build up an arms race or to contribute to the arms race by having the nuclear plants. So that's a little bit I know about Angela Merkel. Like I said before, I'm not really conversant with Gerhard Schroeder because he spent a very little time in power when he was the chancellor.
No, Schroeder said more than Michael.
The Angela Merkel,
Yeah,
really?
he just, yeah, he said at least more than, I think, 4 or 5.
She's still longer. Yeah, she's still longer. Yeah.
Okay.
Over the head of the parliament we call Bundestag, without consent of the parties or the Bundestag, she decided all on her own to open our borders.
I don't think so.
That alone is making her guilty of not keeping the law up. Even if she was the chancellor, she had no right to decide this all on her own. So that's for the first. And for the second, to open the borders without any of possibility to check who is coming, you cannot look into the heads of people, you can only look onto their forehead. So what happened then? When she opened the borders, she did this without plan. She should have made a plan to check people coming in for their papers, for their, where do they come from, what have they done, maybe have done already in their own countries, and why did they flee from their country, and so on and so on and so on. But they came in, millions of people came in without any proof if they even had the right to come. Because let's face this, there is no country in this world, no whatsoever, there is no country. You can just go in, talk about, I'm asylum seeker, and in the end, after the authorities have checked you, they see, damn, he lied to us. He's coming from a very safe country. There's no war going on in his country. So now he tries to illegally immigrate into our country, lying over an asylum that is not effective. So people, let me tell you, this is all over the world. The same stuff. You cannot immigrate illegally into a country. And if you want to immigrate into a country, you have to start the process in the own country. There you have to start the process. And for everybody who is really coming from a war zone, there is no doubt we will welcome them and we will take care of them. But if you don't, if there is proof, and in the end our authorities, our officers, they prove if you lied. I know, I do not have to ask. I know why they're leaving their country. It is for a better life. They might have no chances, no work, no nothing in their own country, and therefore they leave their country to seek for a better life and a better future. That's why most of them leave their own country, and lots of course, if there are wars in their countries. That's the reason. Listen, we we, and I'm just talking for me, myself, for my country, my country, my country. I cannot speak for every European country, and yes, I'm aware of all what happened in the past, and some you should, if you don't interrupt me, then I would have just said, and is still happening today, if you hadn't interrupted me. So I'm very aware of all that stuff, but mostly we, the people, whether it is the German citizens, people, or the France people, we can only vote for our politicians, what they do at least. Then it's over. We trust in that what they say, what they tell us, then we go voting them, and then we find out they lied to us. And but then it's over. We can't do anything against it anymore. So yeah, and that's what we're doing. That's what we're doing. But yeah, of course we are. We are protesting here. Of course, we are protesting against our government and against what they do. But there is a controversy. There are two sides. Every medal has two sides. I cannot speak for France. I don't know anything about French government or system. I don't know and that's because I won't talk about it. I never talk about things I don't know about. So I cannot talk about what is happening in Nigeria. But there is the controversy of all this. Our government is paying year by year, and the Germans are the ones who pay the most money year by year by year by year to all those countries that were oppressed in the past and still are.
Hi, good evening, everyone. My name is Uche. I'm joining from Lisbon, Portugal. All right, so I have a few comments to make, and most of these explanations that the lady has just talked about, I must say a good number of them are not true for a number of reasons. I think we need to go back to history, to the way Africa was partitioned. Germany was in the forefront of that partitioning way back in 1885, 1886. And then up to the time when they took over the Cameroons, parts of West Africa, up to Namibia, it was the First World War and the Second World War that made them to relinquish those territories. Okay, so Germany started paying back certain reparations to the Jews, not to the African countries, not to the places they colonized, not to the places they've been exploiting over the years from Africa. And in recent times, just recently, only last year, they promised to return. Then do it right. Don't bring out certain standards, give the impression that you're doing well or you're doing right, and you're not doing right. These are my personal observations. Now, part of the issues in Congo, like you had mentioned earlier on, Mr. Moderator, it's based on the fact that certain minerals are being used for the semiconductor industry. And there's a silent war going on. The West is highly supported, largely supported by the US and other Western countries are up for that fight. And they need it. So what do you do in African countries? You create wars, you create strife, you create all sorts of panic for people to take up arms and fight. And at the same time, you have institutionalized agencies that specialize in taking up those minerals and take it back to your country where you use them. Forced labor, dependency, making sure that you impoverish Africa with any means, by any means necessary. And this is why a lot of people are speaking out and saying, no, can we address these things? Can we change the standard that is being used? So you have talked about illegal migration. Of course, there's illegal migration. But how can you stop it? What are the things that should be done to stop it? There are things that should be put in place, but not coming up with excessive extant laws that will stop citizens or stop citizens from other African countries from coming to Europe or coming to Germany. Your citizens from Europe and from Germany, they all travel to Africa and they do all sorts of nonsense. And it's being covered up and supported by their foreign governments in their countries. But these things are not in public light because the foreign governments have decided to keep it that way. And then you talk about the issue of aid. Always promising aid to Africa. See, Africa wants partnership. African countries want partnership. They don't want a situation whereby they'll be begging for aid. What is the aid even doing for us? How has it even helped us? No, in no way has it even helped. Not in construction of schools, not in equipping of libraries, not by way of helping with hospitals or developing hospitals, nothing. A clear case in question was what happened during the COVID-19 experience. Germany and the West and France hoarded COVID vaccines from African countries. What for? Because they expected African countries to have millions of people littered on their streets dead. Look at that impression. That is so horrific. And then at the same time, they still want to come back to Africa and do business with Africa. I think is really wrong. I think it's double standard. I think we're not telling ourselves the truth. And I think the dependency approach, which the Western countries have always used against Africa, is pathetic. And it has to be changed. So this is the little contribution I wish to make. Thank you.
Actually, there's again two sides in me talking. I'm with you all along. Taking the example from Congo, isn't Congo that where they have those materials for the electric cars? What is it called, that material?
Cobalt.
Cobalt, isn't that Congo? Yeah, it
It's
is.
actually in other parts of Africa, but Congo is where you have the
Yes, exactly.
yes, the main
And
spot.
I know that that cobalt mines they are very tiny. So grown up cannot go down there. So they send children down there. And there I'm with you. That's something I'm with you. It's not only about taking the minerals they actually pay for to the government, but it's about what does it to the people, to the children they have to go down there. Cobalt is very poisonous. And children's work in our country, imagine in our country, children's work is forbidden under law, but they don't care that in Congo, the children are working for their stupid electric cars. I'm totally with you by that. Totally. I'm totally by. I don't have an electric car, and I would not ever, even if I was a millionaire, I would not ever buy it. I would feel guilty for having always in my inner eyes seeing the children working down in that cobalt mines, because grown up cannot go down there. The mines have to be kept very tiny or else they break together. Yeah. So they have no choice. Then children are taking care of their family. I've always been asking anyone who buys an electric car, why don't they see that?
This is a topic that is one of the major topics that I am actually preoccupied with, the geopolitics of Africa. Like the person who spoke, the previous person who spoke, he kind of already summarized what I would have used for building my basis. So I'm just going to build up on that. When I find it's ridiculous that white people always tend to think that problems only happen one way and that they are white and can never be involved in the atrocities and in those things that are happening in our continent. A good a good example I would like to start off with before we continue too far is Niger. When Niger threw out France, that is when we finally got to know what are these contracts that our founding fathers signed with the West. The 90% of Niger does not have electricity. 90% of France electricity comes from Niger. Yet Niger is paid 86 cents per kilo by France for the mineral resources that is on their land. And France sells this.
No, 26 cents, please, not 86.
Yes, and France sells this for 200 euros a kilo in the stock exchange. Number one. Number two, the West goes to the World Bank and loans themselves money with our mineral resources as collateral, the mineral resources that are under the ground and on top of the ground. And they get interest rates in Germany, which is almost at 0%. We cannot go to the same World Bank and get loans against our own minerals because the West has strategically taken possession of it and have placed military bases around these minerals, which basically means we are not allowed to go and take collateral from our own products under the ground and on top of the ground and get loans for it so that we can build industries and offer a final product to the West. So when you are talking about debts, those are credits. Talk about the credits that you get against our raw materials. Let's start there. And then let's go to the development aid. Development aid never goes into the country alone. It walks in, and it walks in with multinationals. And development aids, or the Sugnanta NGOs, their main responsibilities in that continent is to collect data, surveillance data. How many children is a woman getting in Nigeria? In this, in that. Population is too much. We want you to start having GMOs. Kenya's got its neck under the foot of the West. We have to introduce GMOs, we like it or not. We must. We must go and imph our cows, yet you don't do that here. We have to chip our children. You don't. We have to take medicines that you are testing on us, you don't. So when we talk about the credit that you are giving us, the price is too high. And that's why we don't want it. And one can see that the pressure that you put on us is not without an ulterior motive. The President, Ibrahim Traoré, refused vehemently to take any more loans from you and paid theirs off with a check. The threat around his life is immense. We are fearing yet another revival of Thomas Sankara. We are of Patrice Lumumba, of Kwame Nkrumah. We've seen it all what the West can do if we do not toe their line. It pains me that the West have never taken the initiative, even its own population, to find out what are the true causes that we are not being told about this immigration, because we don't leave our countries just like that. It is you who brings us here. Olaf Scholz was in Kenya. He told the Kenyan president he needs 800,000 workers from Kenya coming to here.